direction.
So that's a perfect transition. If we go into communication, because the communication is important within your staff, away from the coaching staff, but also amongst the coaching staff, and to complete the triangle between you and the staff. So let's talk about the communication between you and the coaching staff, especially with the head coach. If you talk to the head coach and you have let's say a disagreement on a certain player, let's say he believes in the player still and you don't believe in the player, or vice versa, how long do you have the patience? How do you communicate? Where do you step back and let the coach do his thing, or where do you step in and say, okay, this is the line, and we have to continue in a different direction?
I think I'm on the list that fires many coaches, especially before Sharas. It was many changes. Again, some because I was the GM, but the boss was different. We had the owner who was also, firing the coaches quite often, no matter how good the results are. But again, that our job is really easy. We only have to win games. So if you win games, then everybody's happy and everybody's good. And then I'm on the outside, just checking. Again, this balance for me is always, like you said, the players. So I see through the captain's eyes and how they do in practices, how the games are they getting together, are they talking, is everybody having a sad face or motivated face? You have this rule of 20-60-20. So 20 are always positive, 20 are always negative, and the 60 shift to the guys who are more vocal. So if you see that the 20 of unhappy ones are taking over the 60, it's a big problem for the team, and that's when the losing starts, and it's impossible to get back. But again, talking to the coach about the player, he's the boss. I kind of say, okay, now you're the boss. You choose the player, but again, I learned it the hard way, because if you let them go completely on their own, I had coaches that I had to change players every 3 months. It was in a junior system, not the first team, but I want these players. These are really good. We bring them in 3 months later. Those guys are sitting on the bench, and 3 new ones, are much better. So I always say that if somebody from outside is much better than somebody from inside, the coach has to take part of the blame, because we are an organization we don't get the best product. We don't get the super talented guys. We get the hungry guys who want to improve. And this is how we need to look at the whole situation. So why is the guy not improving? Either he's in the wrong system, either he's lazy, or the coach doesn't know how to use him, or there's some miscommunication and not all the guys fit. So I am there to always listen to both sides. Then comes the agent, and then there's a family, there's a whole tribe who's saying, you're good, the coach is an idiot, and on the coach's side, you're good, but the player is an idiot. So I have to be in the middle to say that, guys, the goal is the same. For the coach, he wants to win games. For the player, it's the same thing. He wants to win games. So how do we help each other? I'm a good GM if the team wins. So we all want the same thing. How do we balance things out? So I would say the main thing in communication is to be open, to listen, to understand that we are all different. We all have different approaches. We all have different issues. We all look at the world differently. And I don't have to convince you that my view is right, but we have to find a balance to contribute, because at the end, the same goal is to win. And once you start winning, then it's easy, because you're happy, you have testosterone, the fans are supportive, and then it's easy. Then you only have to think what will happen, if we start losing.
Yeah, but you still always have to think steps ahead. You can't just be, observing and you still have to think what if.
No, but then the main thing, even if we're winning, why are we winning? Are the players getting better? Is the coach getting better? Because winning is sometimes it's always temporal, and everybody's adjusting, especially in EuroLeague. Everybody knows in the middle of the season what qualities of the players are used mostly, what qualities of the coach, and how to play against him. So you have to constantly evolve, and you have to constantly get better, both individually and as a team. And you need time, but you need wins and time, and time doesn't always help, because if you stop developing, then at the second part of the season you start going down the hill.
Yes. Where does this 20-60-20 come from? I never heard of it before.
I don't know. I had read books, talk to the guys. I don't know. I will not give you a quote.
Okay, I was thinking maybe there was a certain book or a certain author that you had that from, but it's an interesting dynamic, because there's so much truth to it. You always have different parties. It's very rarely that everybody's on the same page from the beginning. In the beginning, in the preseason, there's this honeymoon period that everybody's on, and then at some point it shifts to one way or the other. And 20-60-20 is about that. That sounds about right. So let's talk a little bit about the situation that you see that it has to be a cut with the head coach. What's the conversation like? I can imagine that this is the most difficult part of the job, when you have to cut ties, cut loose, and protect the club, protect the vision to move on. And it's hard to step into coach's shoes. It's also hard to step into your shoes. So I'm wondering, what's the line? What's the conversation like, the first conversation? But it's leading up to, because there's a feeling on both sides that it's kind of coming, especially in this profession. So when do you feel that you have to meet with them and say, all right, this is up until here and not further?
I always, again, it's about being open, and firing happens when you start losing, and when you start losing, again, I talk to the players and I talk to the coaching staff and try to see the balance, if they both trust each other or not. Players will never tell me, fire the coach. I have never had it in my 16 years. They would, sometimes they would be like, yeah, it could be a little bit better, but, we need to do it ourselves. Like, I always wanted Jankūnas to come and say, fire this coach, he's bad. It never happens. They never said it, but you can see if they trust the process. Again, or if they trust the vision of the coach. On the coach's side, it's the same thing. He needs to trust. It's his soldiers, so he needs to trust the players. If there's no trust in both sides, I always give, I never come and say, okay, you're fired. So we sit down and we start discussion. And if I see that the coach is saying, okay, I can improve this, I can improve that, then I will help him with the player, saying, what do you want me to tell this or that player? I will call the agent, say, please do the same thing, because again, it's if we win and the players play good, everybody's happy. The value goes up, the coach is happy, the players' value goes up, and so on. But if I have this conversation and I see that, the coach doesn't take anything on him, mm-hmm. and he starts blaming the players, for me, it's a red flag. So then I'll go to the assistants and say, okay, guys, you work with him every day. We need to improve this. We need to improve that. We need to help him open his eyes. The other thing that I always control, and I always say to the coaches, like, I want you to not lose your head. Because, and what I mean is that once you start losing, you don't sleep at night. You take pills to fall asleep. You cannot go outside. The media is attacking you because, you're playing in EuroLeague, so all eyes are on you. Everywhere you go, to the store, to the haircut, whatever, everybody's talking about the same thing. And when you're losing, everybody's carrying you on their hands, and you're demigod. But if you're losing, everybody's like, yeah, and you feel that negative energy, and it takes your head away. And if you cannot see the things clearly, then it's a problem. You start to, you only see the negative, and you don't look at the situation like, what can I control and what can I change? So if the coach loses his head, and again, in our job, there's many ways, not too many options, but there's many ways, to clear the head. Go outside, take a day off, go to the seaside, go to the sauna like we do with Coach Krapikas, and you know, you sit there, you talk, you discuss without any pressure, without anything, and you calm yourself down and you're back in business. But with some coaches, it was never an option, and it just, I know, and you can predict that, you know, if you're your head is in a bad situation, you exaggerate things, you don't trust the players. So I don't see logical option to get out. So I try once, and I try twice, and if I see that the coach is not moving forward, then, you know, I say to myself, I did everything I could, but I need to protect the club.
Yeah, there's a club that and I don't want to mention the club on air. I don't know if it's something that they want or not, but that they give the head coach some time off during the season and let the assistant coaches run, because just for that reason, just for the emotions to calm down, to have the balance, to see it with a different vision, just to have a little bit of a change of dynamics within the team. It's healthy for the players, for the team to hear different voices, have a little bit different dynamic, and then the head coach comes back to coach again in EuroLeague or whatever. So it's I think it's healthy. It's a healthy way of balancing and seeing also the mental health of the head coach, because there's this unsurmountable pressure on that position, and if you don't have empathy for that, it's going to be like you said, a trickle down effect on everybody. What qualities do you usually look for a head coach before you hire them? Is that something you look for, the mental strength of a head coach? Is there development in the first place? What are the when you scout the head coach that you are planning to hire or you like, what are the key aspects that you look for?
For me, any position you hire, you want a guy who wants to improve. If I come up to the guy and I see that he knows everything, or he gives me these, you know, basic cliche things like, we will go all in, you know, I trust the players. These are the typical phrases, you know, I'm a players coach, I have a good connection with all the players. And we know this world. You can call any player and ask him what's the situation, not directly, but through somebody else. So I want him to be hungry to improve, because this is the kind of team that we're in. And then obviously I want him to know that we have this Lithuanian core that you have to focus on, and you cannot expect, you know, to all the Lithuanians to sit on the bench, bring all the foreigners, because this is not Žalgiris. You know, the fans will not support it. It will be difficult for us as a club to, you know, to grow the players and get the other players. Then we don't need the junior system, which is also important. So you have to understand where you're coming into and to sell it to me, basically. You know, I know, again, from scouting, who is more of offensive coach, who is more defensive coach, who gives the guys more the freedom, you know, to develop, who's really strict, again, like Sharas. I think Željko is the same way, like they tell the player exactly where and how and when. And you also have to be, you know, you have to have the same players who would be good for that system and could take the pressure. But again, I would say two things. You have to adopt to our values, to the system that we have, and then you want to be hungry and to prove something.